billion investment to,
Without what?
without a $5 billion investment to go with
yes.
it. You've got all the disruption. Good morning. We're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us here today. We have a couple of members that are participating virtually, and so we're going to begin with our roll call, but each of our votes today will be a roll call vote so that we can have that on the record given the virtual participation. So, Tammy, could you begin by calling the roll? Excuse me.
Mr. Baker, I think, was scheduled to join us electronically.
We will check back on that, and we hope they will join, but we'll move forward.
Okay. Campbell.
Present.
Norton.
Present.
Schubring.
Present.
Tyne.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
And Chair Wheelock.
Present. Great, and then Member Campbell will, just for the record, we need to note the remote participation and an explanation for the remote participation today.
Unable to travel to Rochester, thank you.
Okay, and then we will come back if Member Baker joins us as well and address that issue. So let's move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, will you please call the roll?
Campbell,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. And then the approval of the minutes is the next agenda item. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our May 22nd regular meeting and collaborative session?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Tammy, please call the roll.
Campbell,
Aye.
Norton. Aye. Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period, and we would welcome members of the public to address the board. Please note that this comment period is not the public hearing for the proposed modifications to the DMC district. That will be a later agenda item. Hold your comments on that item if you would until we get to that item, where I will formally convene the public hearing. But if you are addressing the board for the public comments session, please state your name for the record and try to keep your comments to 2 minutes or fewer. Is there anyone that would like to
Baker's here.
speak today? We'll come back to that agenda item later. Thank you. And again, please introduce yourself for the record.
Madam Chair, members, my name is Michael Wojak. I'm the Executive Director of the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. I also serve on the State of Minnesota Advisory Council on Traffic Safety and work closely with a number of partners in making sure that all Minnesotans have the ability to bike, walk, and roll safely, including here in downtown Rochester. I'm here to talk about our thousands of members, including Tamika, not her real name, who has 2 young children and a husband that are making a living on the south side of downtown Rochester. They were told throughout this process, there was a broad community process that established 3rd and 4th Avenues as being the safe and direct route for all ages and abilities to navigate safely on a bicycle through downtown. They bring their children to a combination of schools and daycares on a cargo bike. They don't have the wealth to afford an e-cargo bike. Their safe route was taken away from them. And they were told throughout this process that if you just go ahead and vacate 3rd and 4th Avenues, we're going to make sure that we establish safe, temporary, and permanent roads. That hasn't happened. And what our ask is of the board is to use your executive authority over public taxpayer dollars to ensure that as dollars are released for additional investment in downtown infrastructure, that it is an absolute requirement that temporary and permanent safe routes for people who bike, walk, and roll are created through downtown. You have a letter that goes through the request in incredible detail, but to give you some of the highlights very specifically, 6th Avenue has never been and is not now a safe and viable temporary or permanent option of navigating north to south through downtown. That has been established over many studies and many years. Secondly, we believe the option of 2nd Avenue, which has been taken off the table without the knowledge or consent of elected officials, advocates, and the public, to be put back on the table for consideration. Mayo's own internal traffic study, when they were vacating 3rd and 4th Avenues, specifically recommended that that is the most likely way to recreate a safe network. We look forward to some time in the distant future where there may be a fantastic way of connecting north and south on 1st Avenue and Broadway. That is nowhere near happening in the reasonable future, and we want to make sure that all options are looked at. That's what the community was promised. If you give up 3rd and 4th Avenue, all options are going to be on the table. 2nd Avenue needs to be on the table. We haven't been a part of the process. The city's hired an amazing firm in tool design by handcuffing them. They told them specifically, you can't even consider the safest route as part of your analysis. Let's make sure you condition the release of these funds with putting that option back on the table, because I believe that Tamika and her loved ones have a right to be safe in this community as well. They were looking for the safe routes that they were promised, the temporary routes, and when we asked the city staffer where those safe routes are and when they were going to be established, well, we were told as well, we put all the closures on the websites and we trust the bicyclists will find a route that's safe for them. There isn't one. It's a huge problem. It's a huge miss. And we're asking you to use your executive authority to condition the release of funds for downtown improvements on making sure that we have these safe routes. Ultimately, it is your decision to put this condition on those funds, and whether you choose to condition these funds to ensure safety or you don't, either way, it's a choice that affects the community and Tamika's safety and loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Guy Havlick, a longtime resident of the Kutzke Park Neighborhood Association. Thanks for giving me some of your time today. I want to talk to the potential investment you're making in the Kutzke Park neighborhood for viability for the neighborhood. I want to introduce Cameron Mullen, who is here with the Kutzke Park Neighborhood Association Board. The livability of the Kutzke Park neighborhood is really important to me, to our neighbors, and I believe to the whole city. I'm a retired IBMer. We've lived in the Kutzke Park neighborhood for 50 years, and we've seen fantastic progress in the neighborhood. I look back to the trail network that was put in a long time ago. I want to see that kind of thing continued. And just like Michael was talking about, we need the room for the bicycles and walkers. My wife Judy and I walk in the neighborhood daily. Being retired, we can do that. And what do we like about this neighborhood? It's a natural environment. An urban forest, it's kind of a stretch to call it natural, but it's mature trees, varied yards, lots of people. It's a bridge between the concrete and the bustling downtown area, like you can see right out the window here, and the modern neighborhoods out in the suburbs. It's a human proportion, and as you work with all of these DMC items, keep in mind we need that natural feel of the neighborhood for all of us. And I know it's tough to do that with all the traffic that's going through down here. I dropped my wife off at the clinic this morning. I know this traffic. The non-automotive traffic that we see from our front porch every morning is changing almost daily. The number of Lime scooters, private scooters, bicycles, strollers, runners. It's such a varied environment. You know, when I moved to the neighborhood, it was just cars, nothing but cars. So I want to point something out. There's a report somewhere in your package about the Brooke Carlson's request. Our porch shows up twice in that. So look for Porch Fest in there. There's a steady stream of residents, workers, people going to and from downtown, to and from the clinic. We've made good friends with these people. And what I'm asking for you to do is make sure that there's a safe mixture, allow all of these modes of transportation on these streets. Final topic, we see a lot of lost people on these streets. Visitors come to town, you know, we're sitting on the front porch and they say, how do I get to Walgreens? Where is the hospital? You know, all of us are going, the hospital, it's that huge building right over there on the hill. If you're from Cresco, Iowa, you don't know where the hospital is. So I want to thank whoever put up all the signs downtown for where the west ramp is and where patient drop-off is. That has been fantastic. Keep that signage in, you know, do something for all of the lost people in the neighborhood. So thanks again for taking this 2 minutes, right? Am I at 2 minutes yet? I hope you can find a way to meet all of those complex requirements. The neighborhood needs the natural feel of this neighborhood, and it's got to be preserved. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other individuals? Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to the DMC board. My name is Nick Mueller. I'm CEO of the Ronald McDonald House here in Rochester and a member of the extensive healthcare hospitality housing network that we have here in Rochester. Our network supports families that are coming to Rochester for complex care. They're often making Rochester and the broad impact area of Kutzke Park in the downtown area a home away from home for weeks and months at a time. At any given time, between the 3 largest healthcare hospitality houses, that's more than 200 families that are making this area not only their home, but their neighborhood while they're away from home. I'd like to voice support on behalf of those families for 2 considerations when it comes to investment on the public realm around Mayo Clinic's Bold Forward initiative. First, investments in safer, more comfortable, more accessible connections between nearby neighborhoods, downtown, and the Mayo campus. When streets and sidewalks are designed for our most vulnerable users, those pushing strollers, wheelchairs, those under stress, or just long-term visitors trying to find their way around a new city, everyone benefits. That means continuous, well-lit walkways, clearly marked crossings, curb ramps that align with crosswalks, and unfortunately, it's coming upon us winter-ready surfaces that can remain usable year-round. Secondly, a higher quality public realm that supports both respite and activation for the families that we serve. The families that we support need calm places to breathe, trees, shade, comfortable benches, small green pockets, as well as safe, lively blocks that restore a sense of normalcy for them while they're here in Rochester. Clear wayfinding, intuitive connections to trails and parks provides low-cost access to nature, offers an opportunity to reduce stress for them during a really critical time in their life. These same improvements, I would say, help our staff be able to commute more easily to their place of employment, recharge on breaks, and ultimately make Rochester a choice when looking at their careers. So in closing, I would just say the thoughtful investment in choices in street and sidewalk design and connectivity will deliver significant impact for the families that we serve and call this area home. Safer trips, lower stress, and a healing, supportive city. If ever helpful, we can share guest flow patterns and priority routes to help focus investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this is a public comment period. Any additional comments?
Hi, my name is Robin Slinsky, and I am a Rochester resident here. I came to speak on behalf of the Bullpen event that I had the chance to attend, I believe, a month or so ago. And I come from the medtech community. The company I work for is based in Minneapolis, but I had the opportunity to attend the event here, and it was an event that really showcased Rochester in a way that I felt was meaningful for the people that aren't familiar with the city. So I met people from Boston, New York, Orange County, the typical players that are in that healthcare, medtech, biotech realm. And many of them had never been to Rochester before. I heard many compliments, heard great things about the community here and the accessibility to the physicians, the key opinion leaders. That event certainly showcased a way to do that in a very welcoming fashion. I think it also helped to infuse a lot of people that wouldn't otherwise come to Rochester into the hospitality scene here. So there were events in the evening, people filling up our hotels, filling up our restaurants, and I saw it as a great event that you would see anywhere. You could see it at Kendall Square, you could see it at Research Triangle, and to see it here in Rochester was really meaningful. So I hope that it was something that could be done again, maybe not in the same fashion, but some element that brings that diversity of an employment base to Rochester would be beneficial. You know, we don't have many companies that choose to come here. There's the cold weather. There are numerous factors that make it less appealing. But it was very humbling to see. People made the effort, and I think they would again, given the opportunity. That's it.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Good morning to the DMC board, staff, constituents. My
Can I
name.
ask you to maybe, yes, just adjust.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better,
All
thank
right.
you.
Let me start over. To the DMC board, staff, constituents. My name is Inetta Riddell. I am a new Cutsy neighbor. Am I pronouncing that right? Make sure. Don't want to offend.
Recording in progress.
And also a United Way board member. While I am very new to the neighborhood, I have enjoyed it immensely. What I like about our neighborhood is the warmth, the process that I see that you obviously are doing. I am a pilot as well, and I am very directionally challenged. A lot of people do not understand how I am a pilot. So the wayfinding will be very, very helpful. And the signage that we see around so far, I think is a great improvement. I live right by St. Mary, and every day it's a challenge to get to work. However, I think that if we have continuous accessible sidewalks and lighting and wayfinding and strong links to transits and trails, it reduces frictions for families. Wouldn't you agree? Older adults, I'm the coordinator of pastoral care for Charter House. Sometimes they want to go and just see Rochester all over again. So I'm concerned about their accessibility as well. United Way has long served as a connector in this neighborhood. So I'm told. Would you agree? Yes. Bringing partners and residents together, much like the civic space. Investments that improve access and support gathering will multiply that impact. I strongly believe that. I encourage you to prioritize people first streets and the continuity of trusted gathering places. These are the foundations of community cohesion and opportunity. I thank you very much for indulging me.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Brenda Quay. I am the owner of DT Roch MF LLC. We own 3 blighted properties in downtown Rochester, just south of Discovery Square. I'm here today with great news. I want to let you know that planning has signed off on our 80 units of market rate workforce housing to be developed on our site. We anticipate turning in a site development plan next week, and we are hopeful that we will be in the ground in March or April of next year. Bringing workforce housing to the city of Rochester is a priority, and we are delighted to do that. We've held this property for 10 years, waiting to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the city of Rochester. We're working diligently with the city to try and structure a long-term parking lease, because one of the ways that we're doing this in a very difficult financial environment is to build only half of the parking that we normally would. So we're hopeful that the city is going to work with us to sign a long-term parking lease for one of the public parking ramps and help us to make this a reality. We look forward to providing something that the city desperately needs, and to take the blighted properties off the market and put something that is beautiful and functional and good for the environment in its place. Thank you.
Good morning, Team DMC. I'm Andy Telges, Area Director with North Rock Real Estate and North Rock Hospitality. I also have personal connections to Rotary, the Greek Church, and St. John, the Evangelist Church. So I have many connections, but appreciate the opportunity to thank all of you for your hard work in helping to invest in our city to ensure that we are a city of hope, health, and healing, and will continue to thrive in the future. You know, as a city, because we work a lot with hospitality and hotels and visitors, for those 3.4 million visitors, I just ask that we don't forget about those who are 70 plus, who make up a large segment of our visitors, those who might be handicapped, those who are children, those who need to use bikes and other specialized modes of transportation, that we make the crosswalks as big and as wide and as well marked as we can. And then we also give sensitivity to lighting at night, because we know a lot happens into the evening, that we are a vibrant city at night as well. And for those people who are bikers, I just ask that we come up with a compromise plan that allows everyone to motor through the city safely and easily. But again, thank you for the investment. We 100% support the investment in the plans for Kutzke Park. It's a critical part of our city that we want to encourage its beauty and everlasting success. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Thank you all. Chair's report is the next agenda item, and I will be very brief as we...
Madam Chair, should we ask Mr. Baker?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Welcoming Member Baker, who joined as the public comment period was beginning, and note his presence. And then Member Baker, we need to ask you to address just the virtual participation and the reason for participating today virtually.
Yeah, I got home last night quite late and I have to leave this afternoon. So,
All right, thank
on a
you.
trip.
We'll
Do
note
that.
your scheduling conflicts with travel. Okay, Chair's report, I'll keep it very brief, as I think even from the public comments, we note that we have a very substantive agenda today, some significant items that must be acted on at our September meeting, and so we'll leave plenty of room for that discussion. But I do want to note and thank and congratulate the DMC EDA team on the successful annual community meeting last Thursday, which was attended by hundreds of community members. It's become a very popular and enjoyable part to our annual agenda, and this year was no exception to that. So thank you for your hard work in planning and executing on that event. I also want to, again, encourage members of the community to continue to engage in our development plan update. We are going to discuss that under the metrics item in a few minutes, but that is ongoing and significant work, and we will be coming back to that in future meetings as well. With that, I will also note that there was significant work over the summer by staff on the budget items that you are going to see today, and not just EDA staff, but the city staff participated in that intimately. We'll see the proposals on those two agenda items, but there was significant investment of work, and the materials today show the benefit of that, and that collegiality between the entities is much noted and appreciated. So with that, let's move on to the consent agenda. You will note the items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, I'm going to ask you to call the roll.
Member Baker,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you. And then next, I'll ask Craig Poppenhagen to join us at the table. We have the DMCC Form 990, which we annually review with our auditor, and so I'll ask him to present our 2024 tax return. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today.
I guess kind of the, first and foremost, there was really no, there's been no changes in the, the forms that we have to file this year, so pretty kind of standard procedure compared to other years. So I'll just kind of move through some of the high points here, and I have some page numbers flagged in the presentation, but I think what I'll do as I go through is I'll just kind of point out, these pages where they're located in the board packet. So part 3, that's on page 25 of the packet. Basically, it just gives you a place to explain DMCC's mission, its purpose, what its goals are, things of that nature. Kind of introduces any user of the Form 990 to DMCC. Part 4 starts on page 29 of the packet. Here we're just explaining a couple key points. So part 6 kind of runs through a litany of different administrative practices, policies, things of that nature. So an important practice is that you as the board members have an opportunity to review and read through a draft of the Form 990 before it's filed officially with the IRS. So that's an important part of what we're doing here today. Also explains that there is a conflict of interest policy. That's kind of one of the important aspects or policies that the IRS likes to see in your practices. Part 7 starts on page 30. Here we list out who the board members are, and then it also enumerates, the compensation of the board members, which of course you can see is 0. So the board members serve DMCC at no compensation. We also point out if there's any significant contractors or other organizations paid by DMCC. The notable one, of course, is DMC EDA. So business as usual. Part 8, 9, and 10, this starts on page 32. So it just kind of lists out the revenues that DMCC receives. It also provides a statement of functional expenses. And on the statement of functional expenses, it separates expenses between program expenses and management expenses, or think of management expenses as administrative. And kind of something that folks look at on this particular page is how much is going to program. In DMCC's case for 2024, it was 94.3% of all of the dollars coming through DMCC go into program services. That's a very good percentage to kind of discuss and highlight in the 990 itself. Also, page 10 is just the balance sheet, so it lists out the assets and liabilities. We kind of tie all of these sections back to the audited financial statements, which of course we talked about back in May, but it does, the form does tie back and forth with the audit. Schedule A, so with the Form 990, what I've just been going through is just the basic form itself, and then there's some additional schedules that get added to the 990 and included with the filing. So, where is your revenue coming from? So in DMCC's case, the funds are passing through City of Rochester. And that's been the standard operating procedure from when DMCC started some years ago now. Schedule O, this is on page 52 of the packet, but what Schedule O does is just gives you an open space to add additional explanation really on any items toward the front of the Form 990 itself. So in the front of the Form 990, it gives you a few little boxes, but it doesn't give you a lot of room to really talk and explain perhaps as much as you would like. So over the years, Schedule O is kind of where you've added that additional discussion. Schedule R, this is on page 54 of the packet, but Schedule R is related organizations. And here, of course, we list out DMC EDA. kind of in summary, the filing deadline is November 17th. So basically what happens, you know, after this meeting, you'll take a motion, and if you approve the filing, then we'll gather signatures and get that included in the filing and proceed with the actual filing itself after this meeting. Also included in the board packet, this is on page 59, but the Minnesota Charitable Organization filing. So that's about a 3 or 4 page report that gets filed as well. So important things here, there's no changes in tax exempt status for DMCC. There's no changes in purpose or programs or mission. DMCC does continue to have the ability to solicit contributions if you so choose. That's how DMCC was set up with the initial filing back in 2013. There's been no compensation paid to any officers as well. And the last bullet, this was actually new a year ago, so we have a typo there, but it was new in 2023 with that filing. So now you have to disclose, you know, what banks are holding your cash or holding your funds. That is Wells Fargo, continues to be. Similar to the IRS Form 990, the filing deadline is November 17th. We talked about the gathering of signatures, so that's in front of you as well today. And then with the submission of the 990 and the charitable organizations form to the Secretary of State, you'll include with that a $25 filing fee, and then that should extend your status being active in good standing. Will extend it for another year. So the organization, DMCC, is in good standing through December 31, 2025. And this filing then will extend that to December 31, 2026. That's what I have for prepared remarks for you.
Craig, I wonder if you can, we were chatting up here at the table, if we could just maybe turn your attention to part 7 on page 30.
Okay.
It looks like it's both current and former officers, so
Yep.
current as of today and then former in calendar year 2024. So it feels like we should probably add former member Brooke Carlson, or former director Brooke Carlson, and former director R.T. Rybeck, in addition to then the addition this year of Randy Schubring. So that would be a complete list of both current and former. And that may actually also carry forward, it may not carry forward actually to the last page on page 64. That may only be the current members, but can you clarify if I'm right about that? And if
Yeah,
so,
I've got
then I
a,
would love a motion to amend the 990 to make that consistent.
We can, yeah, I'll check that before we actually do the final submission.
Okay.
So we may just revert back to board members as of 12/31/2024.
Okay.
So
So I'll turn to Tammy and just ask if we can modify the approval resolution accordingly, you know, if necessary, as amended to that effect, or if there's a specific recommendation that you might have, Tammy. And the resolution's on page 65 for the other members.
Absolutely. I think the resolution
Oh,
should
it does,
just be
okay.
amended to reflect that you approve it subject to final review and approval by your attorney.
right.
Okay. Is there do we need a motion to amend it accordingly?
I think we have not made the motion yet, so as long as someone makes that motion, we
All right.
will be good.
Does someone want to make that motion as reflected by Tammy's comments?
Move approval?
Is there a second? Any further discussion on the 990? Questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Schubring?
Being the newest member of the board, and just for clarification, so our one and only contractor is the DMC EDA. Is there a corresponding 990 that the EDA submits at some time during the year as well?
Yes, Board Member Schubring, yes, there is. So the DMCC or DMC EDA files its own 990, and that due date is, as likewise to yours, November 17th. So
Okay.
forthcoming.
And those are both our public documents.
Correct, they will be.
Great, thank you.
Further questions, comments? It's been moved and seconded. Tammy, would you take the roll?
Yes. Baker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Norton? Aye. Schubring?
Aye.
Tyne?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Wheelock?
Aye.
Excuse me.
Thank you. It's been approved, and Craig, thank you for participating today.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we will have the public hearing. This is, before we open the public hearing, I'd like to invite Tammy to remind us of the steps that have been taken to get us here. This is about the modification of the development district. And so Tammy, would you provide that overview, and then we will open up the public hearing.
Thank you. As a reminder for everyone, the DMCC board advanced the proposed modifications to the City of Rochester following our May meeting. The City Council approved the modification on June 2nd, 2025, and now the city-approved modification is back to the DMCC for final public comment through the public hearing and then for board consideration.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Welcome back, and again, please note your name for the record.
Madam Chair, members, Michael Wojak, Executive Director of the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, member of the State Advisory Council on Traffic Safety. We are here to speak in favor of the modification. We think it's a very thoughtful process. We appreciate the fact that it's gone through thorough public input, and there is an opportunity for the public to comment on it. From the standpoint of people who bike, walk, and roll and want to do so safely in the city of Rochester, the changes and the enabling ability of the changes to the map is good for the citizens of Rochester, and we fully support it, and we thank you for the opportunity for public engagement.
Wonderful, thank you. I feel like is there anyone else that wants to participate in the public hearing? Then I will now close the public hearing, but I'm thinking that we need some description of what the actual modification is before I ask for a motion, and I'm not sure if that's Patrick that is presenting that item. Patrick and Cindy, if you'd join us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Cindy Steinhauser is joining me. This set of modifications to the DMC district was presented in May as a part of our discussion. This allows for the some additional necessary land acquisition, right-of-way improvements, and the development of the bus maintenance facility out at off-site adjacent to the current bus maintenance facility. So those are all described in, I believe they're all in your packet, described in the resolution, or shown in the resolution on page 71 of your packet.
And I would just add that it's all related to the Link Bus Rapid Transit project, the property acquisition along the corridor and the maintenance facility, as Patrick indicated.
Why don't we get a motion on the table for the approval of the modification of the district?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions by members?
Madam Chair, it just might be worth noting, and it's in the packet, that this has been discussed with the City Council, and they were supportive and approved it as well.
Thank you. That's helpful to note. Further comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Tammy to call the roll.
Baker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Schubring?
Aye.
Tyne?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Wheelock?
Aye. All right, thank you. Now I would welcome Dr. Clark Otley, thank you, sorry about that, our DMC EDA Board President to join us for his comments. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Wheelock and members of the board. Another exciting day for the DMC initiative following on our very successful annual meeting last week. You've got a very full agenda, 5-year update, development plan, 2026-27 capital and operating budget, contingency funds for Link BRT, historic district infrastructure. Patrick and the team are going to take you through those. I'd like to provide an update on our shared lab facility planning in 2 Discovery Square. Stepping back, the shared lab facility is essential infrastructure to attract biotech startup companies and mid-level companies who are developing new cures for our patients. Those include new drugs, new medical devices, diagnostic capabilities, and healthcare information technology. Along with those companies and their activity comes jobs and economic activity. So we are excited to be partnering with BioLabs, the leading shared lab innovation ecosystem. They have over 500 companies launched who have developed a $5 billion portfolio of support. Earlier this year, your board and the City Council approved the financial support for that shared lab facility, which tipped off multiple agreements. Those agreements include a lease agreement between Mortenson and BioLabs, which sets forth the expectations in the lease. Second, an operating agreement between Mayo Clinic and BioLabs, which covers operations, funding, company selection, and marketing. And then the third is a major partnership between Mortenson and the City of Rochester. This is important as it translates the expectations of this board into specific project elements, defines acceptable evolutions of the operating plan over time, and safeguards the public investment. Over the last several weeks, the DMC, EDA, City, Mortenson, and BioLabs teams have worked very hard, including with City and DMCC Council, to develop that agreement into a durable, workable format. Getting this agreement over the finish line is critical, and it requires some minor amendments to the resolution that this board passed in May. These changes are intended to safeguard the final investment agreements so that they meet your expectations, which include providing a long-term operation for that shared lab space, regardless of modifications to the other agreements. Second, preserving DMC's capital investments in Discovery Square 2. And third, defining a modified repayment schedule should any portion of the shared lab operation cease to operate during the initial 10-year period. With your action to amend the shared lab funding resolution, these expectations will be reflected in the development agreement between Mortenson and the City of Rochester, and is another important step along the path to an important shared lab facility infrastructure in our city. Patrick and Mike are going to take you through any detailed questions, but before we do that, I would like to borrow the clicker and just pause for a moment to reflect on the incredible things that have resulted from the vision of 2013 and 2015 that this city and this state has enacted. Because I don't think we pause enough. We're humble Midwesterners. We don't pause enough to reflect on what's been done. And it's pretty awesome. I'm a visual person as a dermatologist, and I think the visuals will tell the story. So why DMC? This was our city prior to DMC. A lot of empty parking lots, surface parking lots, and some big buildings that were taking care of patients and accommodating them. We recognized we could do better. Parking lot on the left, world-class biotech ecosystem on the right. Ginny's Fabrics, a world-class fabric store, now a world-class hotel. The Brentwood, now transformed into a world-class accommodation multi-use. A vacant lot into workforce housing. A beautiful downtown, vibrant and coming alive. They had a beautiful festival there recently, and we had part of our annual meeting there. Discovery Walk just brings a smile to everybody's face as they go through, and really creates that unique, distinct feel when residents and visitors come to our town. a beautiful aquatic center down at Soldiers Field. And then, soon to come, link bus rapid transit to efficiently move our patients and our providers and our citizens through the city. And kind of the glue, we didn't provide support to the University of Rochester, the University of Minnesota Rochester, but they are really a glue with young students and incredible faculty, making us so proud and bringing all this together. Next steps, obviously a huge project. I was very appreciative of the public comments, recognizing the importance not only of the project that Mayo Clinic is doing, but the surrounding and adjacent space, which needs to be done very well so that our city can thrive adjacent to and in support of this project. So I hope you're as proud as I am for the things that you've accomplished over the past 10 years, and we look forward to another great 10 years. Chair Wheelock and the board colleagues, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, and I think it is much appreciated and very helpful to remind all of us here, not just the board members, but the members of the community that are either in attendance or watching this, about the significant progress. It's easy to get something done, check off the box, and then focus on the next thing and not acknowledge the tremendous amount of change that is already occurring in this community because of this collaborative effort that exists, spurred by the Mayo's investment. So thank you for that. Any other comments for Dr. Otley? Seeing none, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That actually moves us very nicely into the next item on our agenda, where we're going to talk about our metrics, which is really around the DMC development plan. The first of our 5 major goals, the maintenance and implementation of our development plan. No formal action is required today related to our plan update, but I will ask that staff ensure that copies of the draft plan update are provided to the city and available for the public as required by the DMC legislation. This is our opportunity to see the progress that has been made on the plan update and better understand the direction and provide guidance, receiving a draft of the update at our December meeting. So, Catherine, welcome to the table here to join Cindy and Patrick, and I'm going to turn it over to Patrick and Catherine to lead us through.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the setup. I will just turn it over to Catherine and Cindy to primarily Catherine's leadership in walking through the progress we've made, where we stand, and where we'd welcome reaction, feedback, or direction at this time. So, Catherine.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Wheelock and the board. I'm happy to be in front of you here with essentially a status update on the process of the second 5-year update to the 20-year DMC development plan. You know, we've been on this journey for a while, and even at its conclusion, it's a strategic direction that will continue to evolve over the next 10 years of the DMC. But here you see, and in your packet, some of these key upcoming milestones. As Chair Wheelock mentioned, the complete draft will be presented in the December meeting. So today is really an opportunity to tell you where we are, where the strategies are pointing us, and solicit your feedback as we develop that into the complete update. So as a reminder, last time we were in front of you around this, we were focused on the past 10 years worth of data and the sort of highest level findings, which I think should hopefully look familiar to you here, outlined against the 5 major DMC goals around strategic planning, investment, jobs, taxes, and of course that world-class experience that we are seeking. A reminder of the 2025 plan update goals and objectives. We're obviously here to meet and exceed the state requirements and build off of this moment of momentum where we are. I think you'll see through a lot of the presentations that you see today that we're at this inflection point, this really critical key inflection point. And this is a great moment to sharpen our focus as we look towards the future, and also to start to think post-2035. So really where we are moving is this idea, this vision that was set in the foundational documents to be America's city for health. How do we move that into a really truly competitive strategy as we look ahead? And as we previewed, I believe, last meeting, we're really thinking about that through three main drivers: health innovation as an economic engine, health excellence as an attractor, and health in the built environment. And at the same time, we're grounding this and really seeking to focus on the unique attributes of the Rochester community that really differentiate it. We're looking for those opportunities that are only possible here as the sort of greatest potential for projecting this strategy forward. So these are a re-articulation of those three drivers that I just mentioned. You can see that this language has been evolving with every, kind of meeting and engagement. We were in front of City Council. We've had our annual meeting where we had the opportunity to have a community conversation around these. And I think, really honing in on these three drivers as a way of setting the strategic direction for the future. So this diagram will hopefully look familiar. We've been utilizing this since the first 5-year update to the 20-year plan as a way of thinking about, at the highest level, those 20-year goals that I mentioned at the beginning there, the 5 major goals, the 8 guiding principles that are also part of our foundational documents. And so the idea is that those remain, and what we are working on here are these strategic priorities that will help this board guide the CIP investments and the work plan and operating budget in the second half of the DMC initiative. So I wanted today to preview a bit of the analysis methodology that the team is using to help us bring some shape to these recommendations. And help us set those strategic elements into the update. So what you're seeing here is a curve, and we're looking at various market sectors as called for in the founding legislation. So the example I'm going to give here today is in the research and technology sector, right? That's one of the critical economic markets that DMC is going to be digging pretty deep into. And you can see the starting point there on the left is kind of where we are today based on that look back data, understanding our market share, what we're capturing. And then that solid line is projecting forward if we kind of continue business as usual, historical trends continue as they have been, informed by what's happening nationally and globally. You can sort of say, okay, here's a projected future trend. And what you see is the downside line there are things that could risks that might happen that could negatively impact. We wouldn't even stay on that course. And then that upward curving line is, well, what if there were some interventions to really unlock higher growth potential than the sort of business as usual curve? And so we are doing that analysis in partnership with our consulting team to understand the potential of various sectors. And then the second step there is, what are those interventions that could unlock that growth and bump that curve up? And we've grouped those into strategic development opportunities, vertical building investments, 21st century horizontal infrastructure, policies, that might be board policies, city policies, et cetera, and programs, the program work that we do to facilitate things. So giving you a little more detail, a particular example here. So this is looking at research and technology and sort of saying, okay, here was the growth rate from 2005 to 15, 2015 to 25, and here are some potential growth trends looking forward. So in this particular case, we are looking at if this sector would grow to be the same capture rate as the healthcare industry in Rochester. Obviously a very ambitious visionary target, but that sets your sort of ceiling of projected growth looking ahead. And so one of the preliminary findings, as the team has dug deeper into this particular one, is if you project ahead that level of growth for the research and technology sector, and you look at that against sort of the amount of educational infrastructure that we have in the community today, and then what is called for in the original DMC development plan, we might actually need to be bolder and go even further in terms of the support for educational infrastructure within the DMC district to ensure that we have the workforce available to support that level of growth in the research and technology sector going forward. So that's the sort of framework of how we are teeing up this analysis that we're going to be developing further to put into the draft that you'll be seeing at your next quarter's board meeting. And then also we are sort of building out the strategies around these three drivers. So this is health innovation as economic engine. You can see how we're talking about it there. And also the sort of ways in which we're going to start measuring it by categories. So in this case, the team's looking at new IP, new innovation companies, new capital. Are those companies scaling, and what kind of exit volume are we seeing? Across all three of these drivers, we'll also be establishing the sustainability and equity considerations that are critical to think about as we really develop a framework for each of these drivers. The second one is health excellence as an attractor. This is ensuring that Rochester is a premier destination that people choose to live in, work in, and visit by really strengthening that reputation and that proximity to that category of one, healthcare excellence. And you can see here we're thinking about things in a very holistic sense, that a lot of this work is done in partnership. So improving the housing ecosystem is really led by the Rochester Housing Coalition, of which we are a part. The authentic characteristics of Rochester's community, that's where a lot of the public art and cultural events can come into play, again, done in partnership with others. Driving perhaps a new health tourism strategy that's not just about the people coming for health care, but sort of adjacent health-related convenings and things like that. Supporting health educational opportunities with both K through 12 and higher ed partners in the community. And then finally, that workforce component, which I think is just a key factor looking ahead, ensuring that even if new companies are landing and growing here, do we have the right workforce to support that growth? And then finally, health in the built environment. And really, this is about how we're doing the work, especially all of the infrastructure investments, to make sure we're really centering health and well-being in all of our investments. And you'll see the categories here around livability, mobility, environmental health, social cohesion, and climate resilience. And there's a whole host of other sort of sub-metrics that can go under each of those, but these are the sort of highest level categories for health in the built environment. And then I'll just end here with kind of a timeline of the next steps. So you can see we are aiming to publish a draft of the update and make that publicly available on November 17th and come back to the City Council and the DMC Board at the end of November and in early December. And then aiming for a January 2026 City Council plan approval and coming back to this board for adoption in the first quarter of next year.
And Catherine or Tammy, can you just clarify for us as well what the public comment period or public accessibility period is for this? Maybe Tammy, I'll ask you to address that.
Absolutely. There are several very specific ways in which the public has an opportunity to participate. We will make sure that we are publishing a draft of that update and making it publicly available for everyone with at least 60 days prior to the public hearing. In addition, of course, the process that the city follows includes the opportunity for public participation as well.
Thank you. And perhaps either Cindy or Member Norton or Member Schubrine, can you also, we certainly know we're not doing this in isolation. We're talking about the development plan update for the DMC, but we know that we are working in partnership with particularly the city. And is there any comment that you want to make about your own planning efforts, or how this is a collaboration between the entities, or how it shapes or informs the work at the city?
Sure, thank you, Chair Wheelock. I will share and then certainly give an opportunity for Member Norton and Member Schubring to share. We have been on this journey with the DMC team along the way. What has informed this plan is a lot of the work that has been done on the city side in terms of other plans and the engagements around those other plans that has been brought forward into this planning process, whether it's our active transportation master plan, our comprehensive plan, the various neighborhood plans, small area plans. So that's one bucket of this work that's informing it, as well as being a part of laying out what does that engagement look like and bringing in ideas and data from other stakeholders. I would also say that the Mayor and Council strategic planning session that they embarked upon this year is really nicely aligned. I just was quickly making note of the things that came out of their strategic planning session, which is about growth management, resilient economic vibrancy, environmental stewardship, public safety, and new this year's transformational capital projects. So bringing forward the kinds of initiatives that enhance quality of life and I think really reinforce the three buckets of focus that are coming out of this plan organized around health. It really does. It's a testament to being very intentional in our work, both at the city and DMC, that creates such nice alignment.
Thank you. Member Norton or Member Schubring, anything you want to add to Cindy's comments?
I really appreciate the comments and agree with them. I also just wanted to touch on kind of this idea that came up in this discussion and how we often don't think of, for instance, the workforce that's going to be needed for our initiatives as health excellence as an attractor. That requires that we have a workforce here that is trained and ready to do it. So the relationships and the partnerships that we build, even though it doesn't always feel like a DMC thing, is absolutely vital for us to work with our K-12 education sector to prepare students for these careers, but also we have three wonderful institutions in town with Winona State, Rochester Community Technical College, which just opened their dental simulation lab yesterday, which was pretty exciting. And then, of course, the University of Minnesota Rochester, which is, you know, getting quite a reputation around the country for its production and great outcomes for its students. So, yes, DMC is about infrastructure, and yes, we also have to be about once we entice people to come here, which is quite a challenge, we have to have that workforce for them. So I do think, just adding that to this, the importance of partnerships, and I really feel like we are fortunate as a community to know our partners by name, to sit in rooms with them regularly, to be able to build our community the way we want it to be built because of those things. And so just wanted to throw that out, and I don't know if Council President Schubring or Member Schubring has other comments.
I absolutely agree with what the mayor had to say. I also want to point out Ms. Steinhauser talked about our strategic priorities, and one of the strategic priorities from a city council and city standpoint that we really elevated this year was inclusive decision making. And so the opportunities for members of the public to comment and give feedback on the work that we're doing, the work that we're doing with DMC as well, I think is just increasing, and we're encouraging that more and more as we move forward. And just from my perspective, and 10 years in and being new to both the City Council and the DMC board, I really appreciate the yes model that we have, and I think it really encourages that back and forth, the relationships between our city staff and the EDA staff is really congealed to a really strong relationship. And I think I said this at a previous DMC board meeting that I heard from long-time leadership at Mayo Clinic that it is the strongest relationship that Mayo Clinic has had with local public officials, and I put our city team and the DMC team into that. So I just look forward to continuing with that model and fine-tuning it where we need to.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Member Williams?
One, is great work and good progress here, and I like the framework, the three kind of pillars: health innovation as a economic engine, health excellence as an attractor, health in the built environment. I think makes all makes a lot of sense. The slide that you had on kind of market growth and risk, and this is you'll hear a lot of both and here from me. One, my core point here is that we're in transformative times in our community, particularly as it relates to the role of government. Everyone knows that. When I think about cuts to NIH and research, when I think about cuts in housing and rental assistance that are going to impact our state housing finance agency and their ability to invest down here and everywhere, when I think of the impact on county government and human services and Medicaid and Medicaid cuts, when I think about city tax bases being increasingly under pressure, I think all of those those are all kind of risks in terms of market growth. And so I just want to, it's just a statement of the obvious that as we are thinking about future growth over the next 5 years, we will be trying to grow in an environment that is profoundly going to be changing. Just given what has already taken place in the last, couple of years, even interest rates, those kinds of things that'll impact kind of the investment market. So I just want to say that as I believe that Rochester and DMC, we are in a unique position. We are stronger than just about any community that I've come across in terms of wading into those challenging times. Mayo obviously is a tremendous partner to have in this. And then to the slide that talked about accelerating, right? How do we make interventions to unlock higher growth? I really do think we need to keep our pedal to the metal on that one, particularly as it relates to workforce. I heard the NPR report this week on University of Minnesota Rochester. Was it an 80% increase in enrollment? Tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And obviously that has a lot to do with kind of this community and the environment and Mayo and having a focus on healthcare. So that's the both and. Both, we need to really stay focused on what's going on in our environment and in the market and factor that in as we're looking forward, but also recognizing that this really is a unique community. We've got a lot of assets that we're working with.
Thank you. I will just add that like the comments from Member Williams, I really appreciate the core three strategies that you're building this update and gathering input around. And we have kind of the known and the unknown. We know that this organization, as it exists for another 10 years with resources that have been specified in its founding statutory language. And then there's a question about what happens. So I'm really focused on the known right now. And for the next 10 years, what are those strategic catalytic actions or commitments that can be made that may in fact then trigger additional development, perhaps after the existing life as we now know it of the DMC, and what things will be most impactful for accomplishing these three priority areas, and who are the key partners for those strategies. And I hope that when you come back in December with your update, you will have some ideas about where on the risk-reward scale we might want to really lean in a little, knowing that there may be greater risk associated with that outcome as well. But I do think that this is a transformational period, and those that are prepared for that opportunity that will exist in the next 5 to 10 years will do a lot better than those trying to react to circumstances that will occur. So I think we really appreciate the work that has happened so far, starting with where have we come in the first 10 years. It's an important foundation for thinking about this update, and we look forward to actually posting the draft plan and getting more comment from the community as well. So we'll spend a considerable amount of time on this in our December meeting, but we really thank you for presenting this update to us today and look forward to the work that will occur in the next few months.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. So the action items are really the next agenda item, and we're going to spend the balance of today's meeting on several action items, the first of which is consideration of our annual work plan, CIP, and budget. And I'm going to turn this over to Patrick and Cindy Steinhauser from the city, and I want to acknowledge again the many months of effort that have gone into preparing this recommendation for us. We certainly know that there's been outreach to board members to ensure that ideas, interests, and expectations are understood. And then in addition to the usual consideration of the work plan and the CIP, staff are also proposing that we consider transitioning to a 2-year budget model. And I would like to ask Tammy to describe the changes, including amending the board's bylaws and contracts with the city and the DMC EDA that would require or suggest. So Tammy, can you brief us?
Thank you, Chair Wheelock. I thought it would be helpful to set the stage from a legal perspective and remind all of you as board members that state law requires the DMCC to establish a budget and certainly to complete fiscal planning. However, the statutory language that governs our authority is silent as to whether or not this budgeting process occurs on an annual basis or perhaps a 2-year basis. As currently drafted, our organizational documents, as well as the contract between the DMCC and the EDA, contemplate certain actions will be taken on an annual basis. And over the past several months, there have been discussions about whether it would make sense to broaden our perspective and perhaps not just look at the 12-month forecast, but be thinking about the 24-month forecast as well. As you likely saw in your packet, the EDA is doing this exact same thing. And in the resolution that they advanced, they prepared not only an annual recommendation, but also a preliminary recommendation for year 2. And so DMCC can certainly do the same. While there will continue to be certain reports that we prepare on an annual basis or file, from a fiscal planning perspective, we can update our organizational documents and update the actual contract between the DMCC and the EDA to reflect this desire to take a more advanced planning approach. And assuming that is the direction that we receive from all of you, we will bring forward at our next meeting those specific amendments to the bylaws, to the contract, for your formal approval at that time.
Thank you, Tammy. Any feedback from board members on that suggestion? Member Norton.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy supporting this. I do want to say, however, we've been through some interesting, that's the only word I can think of, use time since I've been mayor. And with the pandemic and its effects and the changes we've had to make and pivot, I guess I just want to say that while I'm supportive of this, these things can be changed if they have to be. And I know I see head nodding. We hope it doesn't have to be. We hope we don't live through something like that again. But you know, the work that we're doing requires us to respond to the environment around us. And so, you know, sometimes we put something in writing and then we say, oh, it has to be that way, we can't change it. And I think what we're doing right now is an example of, yes, you can change it. And if something happens that we need to change it again, we're entitled to do that. So that's it.
And I will simply note, you know, having some experience with state budgeting process, which is a biennial operating budget, and actually theoretically a biennial operating budget and capital budget, the bulk of the work is really done on a 2-year cycle, and it's an extensive amount of work that must be done across entities to prepare an annual budget. So I think streamlining and being more efficient about how we allocate our staff resources and giving more predictability about what our priorities are in 2-year increments instead of annually can be very helpful, not just for our own benefit, but for our partners and the community that we work with to achieve our goals. So it doesn't mean that we can't consider modifications to a biennial budget, but I think it makes a lot of sense to move in that direction. And Tammy will look for you to come back with the changes and the actions necessary for us to consider making this change.
Great.
All right, let's move forward then. We've got a team of people at the table to walk us through the CIP and the work plan. And so Patrick, I'll turn it over to you and your colleagues.
Thank you. I'll set this, excuse me, I'll set the stage and turn it over to others here. So as you just discussed, we're looking at 26 and 27 funding request, which includes the capital improvement program, the DMCC operations, the DMC EDA work plan and operating budget, the city DMC project management team, and the working capital loan renewal. So those are the items that are a part of this budget that we'll be presenting. We began this process early this spring, came out of a May board meeting, the May board meeting, with some organization around how you wanted us to think about the upcoming budget. We talked about the idea of completing current projects, of course, sufficiently supporting infrastructure adjacent to Bold Forward Unbound, and preserving resources for the 5-year update. So those were some guideposts that you gave us as we began the staff work over the summer months. We also wanted to frame up a way of thinking about the capital investment that is part of this recommendation, and specifically calling attention to the row called General State Infrastructure Aid. This graphic, this spreadsheet shows the total budget associated with Destination Medical Center, the amount that has been spent or committed from each of the funding sources, and the amount remaining. And as you know, the state transit aid and county transit aid is earmarked and designated for transit-related projects. You took up action in July to continue to advance BRT as a priority. There are remaining funds, but they are transit-oriented uses. The DMC city aid really is primarily focused on supporting the operations of this work, as well as other key projects that might emerge. But the General State Infrastructure Aid, the remaining amount, $181 million, is targeted towards a defined set of infrastructure definitions. We are advancing this discussion with the idea that of that $181 million, that we would try to preserve approximately $100 million for the final 5 years of the DMC initiative, leaving $81 million for the next 4 years, 26, 27, 28, and 29, as a way of framing up our thinking and setting some guidelines for projects that might be coming before us. And I say that with the acknowledgement that, as Mayor Norton said, things may change, priorities may emerge, new opportunities may come forward. And so what we are proposing is a way of organizing our recommendation to you, but not expecting that it would lock us into this sort of dogmatic approach to use of resources. So might just pause there for a second to see if there are any questions or comments about that as a way of sort of frame how we've gone about framing the recommendation.
I think this is a very important part, not just for the board, but for the community and our partners to understand as well. What we're really saying here is we're anticipating roughly about a $20 million annual spend on that GSA,
GSA, yep.
And there are things that really brings into sharp focus that we will not be able to do while we focus on some of those key priorities. There just isn't enough funding available to meet the broad set of needs that members of the community have for our initiatives, and it makes the development plan update in partnership with this planning estimate even more powerful. So we are really saying, you know, we're looking at available resources now and trying to make sure that we have some ability to be planful, thoughtful, and strategic about our allocation of resources, because they are finite, and we are imagining now the remaining 9 years, 9 years and change of this known part of our initiative and partnership. So thank you for pausing at that moment to allow me to emphasize that as well. Back to you. Oh, Member Norton?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I really appreciate the original, available, spent, and committed. We've talked about this for a little bit. On the city's part, I thought we were closer to 90 committed, so I was surprised to see it at only 72. And much of that, I believe, is TIF. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a TIF component that is obligated in the out years.
And is that part of the 72, or is that not included?
That's only the amount that's been incurred is included.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So maybe that 90 amount that I was thinking of is really what it would be if we okay, well, that's helpful to me. I too appreciate the flexibility, but also the planfulness of the approach here as we look at the last 10 years and how we can get our priorities done during that time. So thank you for your work.
All right.
So, it's often said that if you want to understand an organization's priorities, look at its budget. And that's what we're presenting today, what we think are the priorities of this organization reflected in a budget. And what we're going to walk through with you are each of the rows on this budget to help you understand what we're advancing in a way that we think reflects your priorities, this community's priorities, against the resources available. We have divided this into what we call new infrastructure projects. So this first, number 1, 2, and 3 are the ones drawing on that 20 million plus or minus. So already you can see that we are sort of stretching beyond the 20 million. Then there's prior approved infrastructure projects, which is 6th Street Bridge. This is not new money, not a new commitment. It's a commitment that we carry on with. And then the transit projects, prior approved transit projects, again, this is not drawing on additional commitments. These are commitments we had already made. And then the program and operations and work plan that we have to deliver on the initiatives that we have prioritized. So with that, I'm going to turn to colleagues Cindy Steinhauser and Brooke Carlson to walk us through the first row, which is what we're referring to as our downtown public-private infrastructure alignment. And we are thrilled to be presenting a recommendation that will optimize and take full advantage of the incredible investment that is happening in our community by the private sector, Mayo Clinic. And with that, Cindy, I would like to invite you to take the lead.
Great, thank you, Patrick. As he indicated, under new infrastructure projects, what we are bringing forward for your consideration is an investment of about $19 million in 26 and in 27, and it is truly an extraordinary ask. We realize it's the largest request we have before you other than Link BRT, but we think the moment calls for it. What this investment will mean is allow us to optimize and build off of the investment that Mayo is making, the private $5.5 billion investment that they are making in the area that you see on the map. It's generally a 35 square block area that is impacted, and we are bringing forward a recommendation to build off of investment that will position Rochester for growth for the next decade. Continue. So, want to walk through that in a little bit greater detail. Just some specific things to consider as we think about this investment. Again, it's a 35 square block area where we're targeting this investment. It's generally geographically constrained area of development, a lot of infill opportunity. It's in the heart of our downtown. It is surrounded by wonderful quality neighborhoods. And what we're talking about is how do we think about this investment? I was really moved by a lot of the comments in the open comment session at the beginning, neighbors articulating far better than I could what it means to have this project in their neighborhood, knowing that they are most greatly impacted. And so thinking about people-focused spaces, while at the same time recognizing we need to position 21st century architecture or infrastructure for supporting development that happens. I think.
Yeah. All right, so with the board's support from previous discussions, we engaged in a process to understand what it would mean to integrate and connect Mayo's new development into our community and our surrounding neighborhoods. And as you heard from our public speakers, the Kutzke Park neighborhood in general, which is highly impacted by this new development. We are doing this and studying this to really ensure that our community grows and thrives alongside Mayo's investment. The process, which we worked with our design partner GEL and WSB, resulted in clarity around concerns and opportunities, guiding principles, as well as a set of design concepts. So in partnership with our consulting team, we did an in-depth site analysis, conducted interviews, community open houses, many meetings with our neighborhood association partners, and a survey with those who live, work, visit, own businesses in this downtown area and Kutzke neighborhood impacted by the development. We learned a few really key concerns and opportunities. First of all, we've already talked about throughout this meeting that there is catalytic development happening in our community, which is really exciting, but catalytic is key. Catalytic means it will spur additional development. So how do we think about the work that we're doing as DMC in the city and where we can invest to really support additional development as the neighborhood changes, while also honoring what's so great about this neighborhood? And the neighborhood is a really strong, wonderful resource. It's evolved over the years. It has a tremendous sense of identity, connectedness, and historic value that is right next to our downtown. It's a really special place. But it's a place made up of different people with different needs. There are hospitality houses, hotels, faith institutions, social service organizations, and mixed density development already in this neighborhood that allows for future density and development as well, but we want to do it in a really thoughtful, guided way. We also have the opportunity to lean into America's City for Health. We can, using development in our downtown and into this neighborhood, we can improve our ability to achieve our greenhouse gas emissions, improve our public experience, and really create a healthy environment for people to live in, a health in the built environment space. And the time is now. We are in this moment of transformation. We are tearing up streets every day in our downtown. Let's rebuild them and connect them to the surrounding areas in a way that really honors who lives here and works here and uses these spaces every day, but also the visitors that need highly accessible, well-connected spaces of respite in our downtown and surrounding areas.
I just want to pause and say you can see why it's so wonderful to work across organizations when we have such inspiration coming from teammates and bringing forward the voices of the neighborhood. So when we talk about this investment, it is, yes, it's $5 billion, but when we break it down, there's also $75 million of infrastructure investment that Mayo is targeting in this, what we know as the direct impact area. But as my colleague Carlson has indicated, we know that the impact emanates beyond that direct impact area. And so being very intentional about with our ask and when we think about what we want to bring forward, we want to think about this as an opportunity not to just recognize an institution that's building 2.4 million square feet of space, but understanding what that means in terms of a community project that emanates beyond the direct impact area and creating those important connections, both real or social, cultural, kind of social capital connections that live within each of us as an individual. And so guiding our work, about a year ago, we put together and brought forward to you, brought forward to the city, brought forward to our partners at Mayo, a set of guiding principles that really grounded us in this conversation and grounded us in thinking, what is our North Star when we think about what kind of investment we're asking for? And those 5 guiding principles, there's 4 in particular that we want to highlight because there's what are called out in the various options that we looked at. Maximizing opportunities, thinking about digging once and minimizing disruption in future years. Connectivity, not only below but above ground. Connectivity below ground to support future growth. Connectivity above ground to make sure that we acknowledge the impact and the interface with these really special spaces that live. There's no back door to this development, right? It's downtown and it's neighborhoods downtown to the east and neighborhoods to the north, to the west, and to the south. And how do we retain our identity in all of those spaces through connectivity? It's that elevated experience not only during construction but what it means in terms of post-construction. And foundational to this conversation is communicating and engaging along the way. So when we talk about downtown area infrastructure and the improved experience, really want to lean into a lot of the work that Ms. Carlson has done in culling out what is of importance to the diverse community that she identified. So we're talking about development and neighborhood experiences that are people-centric, people-focused corridors that are welcoming, they're innovative, they're culturally rich, they encourage further investment, whether that investment happens at a very singular residential neighborhood level, at a small institution, or in a multi-housing development which is already existing in this neighborhood. Creating the kind of place experience through art, through natural spaces, through innovative infrastructure, easily navigable, that further supports what makes these areas so great, but supports continued investment going forward. So when we did this, we looked at 3 options, and I'm going to walk you through. Our first option is a very basic option. It's $18 million, and it just looks at where there is existing investment happening, planned investment. And so you see on the map, the diagram that's there before you, the blue and orange are where there's already planned or approved improvements happening. And the yellow is the proposed $18 million that maximizes, that guiding principle of maximizing opportunities to avoid future disruption. And so again, thinking about this investment, looking through the lens of one of the guiding principles. We then said, what should we look at when we think about additional guiding principles, when we specifically think about connecting spaces and thoughtful approaches to neighborhoods and our gateways? When we think about above ground and below ground connectivity, not only to Kutzke Park, which is inevitably the most impacted neighborhood by this development, but also thinking about that connectivity to other spaces. How do we build on the identity of pedestrian-focused spaces through things like art and cultural amenities and natural environment? And so option 2 is a $38 million investment that not only builds off of option 1, which is yellow, but option 2 adds the green spaces. So that investment penetrates out into the neighborhoods. And then we looked at option 3, which is basically similar to option 2, but just expands the geography east to include First Avenue, and that is noted in the purple color corridor. After analysis across all 3 options, thinking about capacity, thinking about resources, thinking about how to preserve opportunities for the future, we landed on option 2 as our proposal that is before you. Again, it really integrates 4 of the guiding principles: maximizing opportunity, building on connectivity, having that elevated experience, and grounded in communications and engagement. We then said, what does this mean in terms of future-proofing investment and development? And so very conservatively, I might add, took a look at how does $38 million front-load opportunity for development that prevents disruption in the future, sporadic one-off developments, as opposed to a very intentional infrastructure that paves the way for, as you see here, our analysis based on recent projects in the past 5 years and looking at the areas of potential development that exist in that direct impact, a broader impact area. We could see conservatively 1,300 to 2,000 housing units. We could see 2 to 400 hotel room keys, hospitality room. We could see new commercial space to the tune of about 100,000 square feet. And when we, really powerful, is what's the impact of property tax, annual property tax, before development and after development. And thinking about the images that you saw when Dr. Otley shared the reflection of DMC over the past 10 years, again, I would say that these numbers are fairly conservative, thinking about what potential exists in the city of Rochester.
So we've shown you a lot of maps, but we wanted to put forth a rendering to give you an idea of what are we actually proposing for the above ground investment. And this rendering depicts the public realm improvements that we could accomplish if we really lean into these priorities that our stakeholders, best practices, DMC goals, and opportunities for innovation allow us to do. So if we look at this image, we see a variety of different ideas. So I just wanted to call out a few to help you visualize what this could mean. This could mean more active storefronts, wider sidewalks and plazas that can be activated with seating or events. It means accessible crossings and design elements that emphasize that pedestrian priority. It means landscape buffers supporting separated bike lanes to enhance experience and safety. It means preserving and increasing the tree canopy, which couldn't be mentioned enough as a valued treasure of this adjacent neighborhood. And it also means, as Ms. Steinhauser mentioned, public art that could tie into our City for Health motto.
Then want to share in the
Can we
next.
just pause for a moment, Member Williams?
Just a question, I mean, we've heard a lot about the wayfinding. I mean, all the public testimony, I agree, was really powerful. Do these plans incorporate kind of our response to the concerns about bike safety that were highlighted earlier?
Yes, so the report that was mentioned during the presentation is something that we will share with all of you afterwards. It's a thorough report. Again, it outlines a set of guiding principles and design concepts for each of the corridors we're proposing investment in, and it does outline strategies and metrics to help guide us in making our next steps in design planning and really enhance that pedestrian and bike safety.
I'm going to just add some additional comments. At least wearing one of my previous professional hats at the University of Minnesota, where I was responsible for that period of time for transportation planning, this is an incredibly difficult and complex issue. And it's easy to put a drawing together that suggests where a pedestrian, a two-wheeled or a one-wheeled vehicle versus a automobile or a delivery van or a major truck will be and where they're supposed to be. But what happens is the unpredictable behavior when everyone ends up wanting to be in the same spot at exactly the same time. And this is a very challenging issue. It serves a broad segment of the population who use those modes of transportation or have the capacity to use them very differently. And I am not inclined to put any requirements around a motion by this board about a particular outcome. And I know that this is really a city responsibility more than a DMC responsibility, but I do think that we hope and encourage you to continue to spend more time on what is a very complex issue, particularly given that we have a population who has some physical limitations that will be using this space, further complicated by a Minnesota-wide challenge around varying daylight hours, visibility, and weather conditions. And I just want to note the complexity of this. This is a hard one to thread the needle in such a way that all of those interests are satisfied, but we encourage you to continue to work on that.
Madam Chair, just to be clear, I agree that I wouldn't want to place any contingencies on DMC funding of this. I do want to emphasize how important, obviously, those multiple interests, whether it's greenery, whether it's bike safety, pedestrian, this is really important stuff in terms of how this massive new development is kind of buffered and integrates down into the Kutzke Park neighborhood in particular. So that's,
Yep,
I agree,
exactly.
it is complicated.
Yeah, and if I might just add and build off that, I really appreciate that reflection. I think it's on point. I don't think I think it will also be an iterative process over the next 5 years. We will learn from a project and we will iterate the next project. I think we are all grounded in that this is a people-first space. We need to think about that and understand that it is the neighbors that walk these streets. There are 3,500 unique visitors that land at Mayo Clinic every single day. And so how do you think about a people-first approach in making these spaces? And we recognize that we have a disproportionately higher medical tourists, which comes with it, navigating streets with devices or other considerations. So I think we are all very sensitive to that. We don't have an answer other than to say we need to appreciate that we come to the table understanding all of the things that plug into it, as you said, Chair Wheelock.
Please proceed. Member Schubring?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since Member Williams brought up the issue regarding the bicycle plans and being a little more specific on the engagement that's happening now and particularly with Second Avenue, I do believe that it is important that we're transparent about any concerns that may be around that, whether it's patients and visitors, but I think we do need to have a full assessment of that route, and if it's determined that that route is not an effective route, I think from a public standpoint, transparency about that and including that in the assessment, from my standpoint, and I'll share this at my perch at the city as well, I do believe that should be a part of the assessment.
Thank you. Please proceed.
I think perhaps just a couple of notes, because there have been conversation at this board and certainly at a staff level about trying to understand fully how does this recommended investment fit into a series of other infrastructure investments that are happening. And again, Cindy, if you want to comment on any of this, but just to give some visualization to the extraordinary amount of infrastructure upgrade happening in Rochester, airport, water reclamation, downtown district energy, just a whole series of infrastructure investments that are occurring. This commitment from DMC, and in fact, I think arguably frees up the city to be able to add capacity and use resources elsewhere that would otherwise perhaps not be done in a timely way. And again, similarly, the transformation that's happening that goes beyond this geography. So this is not the only geography that is the focus of this board and this community and the city. Lots of other transformation happening as well. My thought is, before we continued on to other items in the capital budget, we'd be happy to respond to any additional questions about this. Again, as Cindy said, this is the largest request before you as a board, but for the transit investment in BRT in the course of the 10 years, this is the largest investment request before you. And I am quite confident that this reflects the goals, original goals of DMC when DMC was contemplated, the idea that DMC would support infrastructure growth that Rochester couldn't keep up with to achieve the growth of Mayo Clinic. And I think the uniqueness about what you're contributing, your approach to contributing, is our commitment to doing it through a lens of health, a lens of community, and a lens of engagement.
Innovation, too.
A lens of innovation. And so the request in front of you isn't in some ways is like the action you took on Soldiers Field a couple of years ago when you sent a signal to the city that DMC resources would be available pending final design, final information. So there is not a lot of detail that we're providing you today. That will come. There will need to be money spent along the way for design work so that it can be further fleshed out. And so a lot of questions that you might have about, do we get all of the things in this picture, or what aren't we getting? I mean, this is somewhat aspirational and intentional, and that will be reflected in the final design work, which you will be seeing along the way. So the action being requested is for this board, as a part of the capital budget, is for you to authorize this with key decision checkpoints along the way as designs are further developed.
So if we could go back to the option B recommended map. I want to just say that I appreciate the intentionality around strategic access points to the Mayo campus and to the downtown area, and with a clear intention that the capacity that is being delivered as part of these projects will also result in an enhanced visitor and residential experience. It is a very notable impact to arrive at the Mayo campus, and part of the brand is achieved just through the feel that you have about the physical space even before you enter a building. I would love to see that brand extended into the surrounding community and the downtown, and I would encourage you to continue to think about public realm improvements, particularly in the downtown area, that improve and activate and enhance that visitor experience and the wayfinding and the tree canopy and the public art. There's certainly a great example, I think, about the creative enterprise zone in St. Paul with the use of murals on privately owned buildings that really change what is essentially otherwise a warehouse and industrial district. So I do appreciate that. I know that this has been a long discussion and a long process for getting me in particular, perhaps, to support this request. This is an example of how unique this partnership is in the community. Every community struggles with antiquated and outdated public infrastructure that they don't have the resources to adequately address in the time frame that they feel is optimal. And to be able to advance the investment that Mayo is making in this area and to provide the supportive capacity that is needed to really optimize what they're trying to achieve is a challenging thing to do with the tax base, and particularly if you're not only trying to talk about change in a neighborhood, but paying for it through private assessments at the same time. So this is a big investment in changing the face of the neighborhoods around this development site, providing the capacity necessary, addressing some antiquated infrastructure that needs to be addressed as part of this initiative, and doing it with a very significant investment of available GSIA. This is the biggest for GSIA, this is the biggest investment, and it really is committing essentially almost all of our 2-year allocation for available resources. So this is a milestone proposal that you have here and reflects a lot of feedback. I do appreciate and have noted on the resolution, I suppose I could point to the specific text. I think on page 2 of the resolution, under paragraph 3, this is very similar to how we approach the Soldiers Field, and I just want for the record to note that we do expect that this enhanced and elevated experience will be an outcome, and we will be looking for the plans to show that. We know that not every street is wide enough to allow for the vision that you presented on that, probably the next slide or whatever that slide was, but we expect that the intent will be carried forward to the maximum extent available as given by the physical limitations of any particular site. Member Baker?
Yeah, thank you. I just add, this makes a lot of sense. The big caveat is, can we do this the same time we're doing all the other construction, or in a way that works? As I think about where we're at and this 10-year look back, when this was initiated, the whole program 10 years ago, it was with a hope that we would spur what we have actually seen, which is this huge Mayo project and a commitment to have Rochester remain, if you will, kind of the heart of Mayo. And I think going forward, we have two huge objectives. How do we maximize the benefit for Mayo and Rochester as a consequence of the Forward Unbound project? And secondly, how do we do it in a way that minimizes the pain for the community? I.e., we don't want to kill the patient during the surgical procedure. And I just want to I want to make sure as we think about this, it makes all the sense in the world to get this infrastructure done. And I support it, because you don't want to be going back 5 years later and tearing up the same streets and causing additional pain. I just want to make sure we have thought through all the complexities, because we still have to get patients to the clinic, and we still have to have people that can live in Rochester and visit and all the rest. So I just add that. So I'm a supporter, but I can see this will add complexity, and it's worth it if we handle it and manage it. I just want to make sure we've thought it through.
I know we have a couple of members with additional comments, probably a follow-up to this, but is there any response to that any of the staff want to offer?
Sure, I would just say I appreciate those comments, and that's very much an active conversation with us. We have, with the city and our partners at Mayo, who we meet daily with their project managers, their consultants, to coordinate the work. We have more, that's the next phase following these anticipated approvals, is to get into a session where we understand what's happening when, what time period, and how do we best coordinate. We have the agreements in place, so that work has been done. That really spells out the criteria for how we do coordinated construction. Now it's just a matter of putting the times together.
And Member Schubering, did you have?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm extremely supportive of this direction, and I just think back on 10 years ago, and one of the key objectives of DMC was enhancing the patient visitor experience beyond the walls of the clinic. And we're also recognizing the uniqueness of the DMC here in Rochester, in that we have a safe and welcoming neighborhood that is at the front door of our clinic, and we're enhancing that front door. And if you think about patients and visitors, and I would also add employees, and Ms. Carlson used a great word, respite. To walk through those neighborhoods with trees and homes, it feels comfortable to patients and visitors that are here. It feels familiar. I think back when I moved down here 17 years ago, Kutzke was one of the first neighborhoods I was a runner at the time, and I would leave the Dan Abrams Healthy Living Center and run through Kutzke and connect right to the Cascade Creek trails, and it's just a very comforting and pleasant experience for employees, visitors, and their guests as well. So the enhancements and really highlighting that what will be not the back door, but one of the doors to the clinic, and making that porous, I think, is just a great way of enhancing what we have here. So thank you.
Any other comments? Member Norton?
Yeah, this one's just real quick. I agree with everything I've heard. Thank you all for saying all that. I'm just going to add on the map on any of option 1, 2, or 3 that we've seen, and 2 I think we're settling on here. There's a there's a property, and it says Central Park on it. And just to let you know, I have reached out to the Historic Preservation Committee of the city and asked for a historic designation of that park. It's the first park in the city of Rochester. And we have the first statue of a woman elected leader, Amelia Witherstein from way back when, who was the very first elected leader in the city of Rochester and the very first woman to serve on a jury in Olmsted County. So we're putting a bronze statue of her up in that park as well. Right now, it is currently being used as a bus stop because all the 2nd Street BRT is being rerouted around there. So I would just say, as we move ahead, that is something we probably want to keep our eye on. It may need some upgrades after its several years of use as a bus stop. Many, many, many buses surround that every day right now, and its use has changed, and it is one of those parks downtown. There's a hotel, the Hyatt House is right there. This is a place a lot of the Hyatt House and other residents use as a place of relaxation. That's kind of on hold for 2 years, so my hope is when all this is done with the statue being erected and the designation, which we're fingers crossed, it looks like it might qualify, so we're hoping for that in the next few months. Is going to be part of probably what we'll have to look at in the future.
Member Time.
Well, I support this too. I thought it was powerful to hear the neighborhood come out and speak in favor of it. I do mirror what Chair Wheelock said. This is a major investment, and that's going to mean that this board is going to have to say no to some things that come forward in front of us, and that's difficult. So we can't do this and everything else we want to do. So there are going to be other things that are going to be pushed back or said no to because of this, but I'm fine with that. I think it's a smart investment. So.
Thank you. All right, and then I just want to note as well, there is part of the capital a recommendation for $3 million a year for strategic investments, so that provides some opportunity to respond and react to opportunities that we can't fully predict at this point in time, and I do appreciate to see that placeholder in there. Patrick, Cindy, team?
So just then moving on, in the capital budget, we have a line item about wayfinding. This is really around supporting interim wayfinding to be nimble and responsive as construction changes and routes change. Strategic development, you just mentioned, Chair Wheelock. This is a resource that we've used for housing and shared lab support. We imagine it for in the future to be potentially around specialized housing, life science ecosystem, destination demand drivers. So these are resources that would be available that we would bring back to this board and to City Council for specific related projects. And 6th Street Bridge, we call it 6th Street Connectivity because it's much more than a bridge. Includes riverfront improvement, street improvement, and the bridge itself. This has been in prior budgets and is part of a $10 million grant, match rather, to a federal grant. And then Link BRT, again, not new funding. This has been approved at prior meetings. So those constitute what shows up in the CIP. There have been other approvals that remain at our disposal: Historic District, Riverfront interim activation, and some design work around St. Mary's that have been in prior budgets that remain to be used. So those are the physical projects that are part of the budget that we're presenting. We could spend time on any one of these, but you've seen all of these in the past. So
I think in the interest of time, I'm going to encourage you to keep moving forward, and we'll see if there are any questions at the end of the entire presentation before we take forward the resolution.
Great. So the next portion of the budget is our business and operating work plan, and I'm going to ask, you'll hear from Mike, and then you'll hear from Brooke, and then you'll hear from Cindy. So, Mike, if you will just.
Yeah. Appreciate the time this morning. I think in the interest of the schedule, I will keep this fairly high level. So our business development strategy continues to be very integrated around sort of our three buckets of work. The first is our efforts to increase the level of awareness that exists globally around Rochester as a health tech destination. If you remember, a few years ago, we did some baseline assessment, and that number is not where we need it to be. So to date, we've been out in front of about 2,500 companies, imposing or impressing upon them what the value proposition is in our community and moving those companies from interested parties to organizations that have a connection into our ecosystem. The goal for this work, obviously, is we want companies to be making investments into Discovery Square in jobs and investment. But the process of getting them there is first we have to make them aware, and then we have to get them connected. So we continue to be aggressive in that effort. We also run a similar program around housing development and retail. We had a housing developer in town yesterday that is evaluating this market for future investment. So the majority of the work we speak about at these board meetings is typically around our health tech business, but we do spend a tremendous amount of time in housing and retail as well. We are expanding next year our work around ecosystems. So we talk a lot about, first we have to make a company aware of what the opportunity is here. And then we have to actually get them a connection, whether to Mayo Clinic or other companies, educational institutions in our ecosystem. And we see the bulk of our work, I think, in the future years shifting more towards that program as we start to have success in identifying and making these companies aware of the opportunity here. When we think about ecosystem, we typically think around different nodes inside of our ecosystem. The two that we feel like we have the most ability to make an impact on are our workforce development assets. We think of not only our K through 12, but our high school or colleges and universities within a 1 day's drive of Rochester, building connectivity with those organizations so that when we have talent needs for the companies that have either spun out of Mayo Clinic and are growing here or that have moved here, we have the ability to allow them to staff the positions that they're going to be creating. So continuing to focus on building those relationships as well as our global trade authority relationships. And then the third part of our work is really around the infrastructure question. So what are the assets that we need to build here so that we establish this awareness and we make these connections into our ecosystem, that we actually have the physical infrastructure they need. We've talked a lot about the shared lab. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but getting that asset up and operational is going to be a key part of it. We really want to start to elevate the Innovation District as an organization and as an entity on its own, to start to connect people into that asset, thinking about how we maintain this effort in 2035 and beyond. And again, thinking about the importance of workforce development. What are the physical assets we need to be building inside of our Innovation District to make that talent question a very easy one to solve when we do have success in getting companies to make investments here. So continue to focus on those three areas and continue to do the good work that the team and I are doing.
Thank you. There are some additional slides in your packet with additional background. So as we finish this set of presentations, if you have questions for any member of the team here.
All right, similar to Mike, I will just present my initial slide, but there is additional information, and always happy to speak about the work that my team is doing related to strategic infrastructure and public experience. Our overall goals are around ensuring the infrastructure meets the unique needs of our community, patients, and visitors. So not only are we looking forward to focusing on this new investment in the downtown area and the Kutzke Park connectivity, but also continuing to inform in our partnership with the city overall wayfinding strategies, the 6th Street Bridge work, the historic district, bus rapid transit, and so on and so forth. We're also continuing to support the activation of downtown public spaces to enhance that experience as well. We also work on our transportation mode shift goals in partnership with the city around walking, biking, and public transit usage. We continue to work on accelerating our revitalization of our downtown historic district through a number of strategies, of which either DMC is the lead or a partner on, such as the Infrastructure Investment Program. We'll be talking through a couple of new proposals today, and public realm improvement work. And finally, our team works on meeting our targeted workforce and business goals for women and minority participation in our DMC-funded projects, and we track that closely in partnership with the city.
Thank you. Yours. yours is this. Yeah.
So the partnership, of course, includes your support of a city project management team has been shared, are the projects that we are working on. But in particular, I want to highlight the 8 teammates that you provide support to. The work that we are organized around is not only in mode shift, it's also mode shift work, it's in project management work for projects that we bring forward to you for your support. It's the women and minority business compliance work that we do, and overall DMC initiative, management of DMC initiatives and funding that make our way through to the city organization. So again, here's just at a high level of the work that we're doing, project specific, program specific, as well as the technical support around compliance reporting that we provide to be in compliance with state requirements.
So thank you, Madam Chair. Those are the brief reports we wanted to provide. There's detail in your packets associated with these budgets and work plans, and that really represents the CIP that we want to advance to you and encourage your adoption. Thank you.
Patrick, could I just ask you to comment briefly on the working capital loan?
Yes. So the working capital loan is really a cash flow mechanism that advances funds to DMC EDA, as we don't have any funds in our account but would flow through DMCC. So advancing that so we can pay our bills and reconcile that each month. So we are recommending that, I think we're recommending that to be $150,000 a month. Again, it's really just a cash flow mechanism.
Thank you. Why don't we get a motion on the table to approve the budget items that were just presented to us? The resolution is in your packet on, I think, page 91, starting on page 91.
Move approval?
Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any questions, discussion, comments that members would still like to make on these items? Seeing none, I'll ask Tammy to call the roll.
Baker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Tyne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Motion carries, and thank you to staff for your hard work on this, and good luck on getting all this work done that we just authorized. Next, we have 3 items on our agenda, including progress reports and actions items related to the shared lab in Discovery Square, Historic District Infrastructure, and Bus Rapid Transit. So, Patrick, would you?
Thank you. You heard a preview from Dr. Otley with respect to the progress that's been made on the shared lab since our last meeting. I will ask Mike if he would just do a brief comment about that, including some next steps, noting that we are asking for action from this board as there is some minor, what we consider minor modifications to the resolution from May of 22 that provided conditions for the shared lab, and I'm happy to talk about how those modifications are going to show up in the development agreement between the city and Mortensen. But just as a reminder, Mike, would you just speak about these 3 interrelated agreements?
So there are, as Patrick mentioned, a number of agreements that have been in process for the past several months, working through a variety of issues. We've sort of identified the 3 primary ones here. The first is the development agreement. This is what we are going to speak about in a moment. This is the agreement between Mortensen, the property owner and developer, and the city of Rochester to underwrite the infrastructure costs of this shared lab facility. We are in the final stages of working out those agreements and are having multiple conversations daily to get that document buttoned up. Second is a lease agreement between Biolabs, the operator of the shared lab, and Mortensen. Some of the requirements of that agreement are informed by our development agreement, so those 2 have been moving hand in hand. And the third is an operating agreement that is a multi-party agreement that really answers a lot of the questions around how this space will be run on a day-to-day basis. So selection, moving companies in, moving companies out, making decisions on a variety of budget-related items on an ongoing basis. And the majority of those details have been worked out as well. So these agreements have all been moving in lockstep. They inform one another in a variety of ways. But our goal is to have them completed by the 7th of October is when we hope to get everything buttoned up and signed. So that's where those are at.
Thank you. Member Campbell.
Just a quick question. When this agreement is executed, what will the occupancy be of Discovery Square 1 and 2?
Great question. Discovery Square 1 is functionally full. I think there's a few thousand feet that are available, but we talk about it as being 95% full. Discovery Square 2 is about 50% full. With this space, it will be not quite 2/3 full. There's space on the fourth floor, second floor, and then the entire fifth floor is vacant. But this will put us closer to getting that to the 2/3 full mark.
Thank you.
Other questions? So the resolution for this item is on page 125 of your packet. I want to note that we give discretion to the EDA for negotiation and modification of the development agreement. We will assume that the passage of this resolution means changes consistent with what was presented today at our meeting, and should there be changes in the scope, we would ask that you come back and brief or consult with the board if it's a meaningful modification.
And if I could just say a bit about that. So when the resolution you adopted, that we advanced, that you adopted, was perhaps more prescriptive around two items that we felt are not necessary. And those items had to do with space availability in the shared lab for economic development organizations and entities. And that was really intended on our part really to be more about us having access to the space as necessary to show the space and make people aware of the space. So the way it was worded in the resolution felt too prescriptive. Second element in the resolution had to do with authority over selecting operators should biolabs depart. And we had that as something at our sole discretion, and that's been modified to be a joint decision with Mortensen as the landlord. And then the third item in the resolution talked about the remedy should it no longer be operated as a shared lab. And again, we felt perhaps it was written more prescriptive than we intended. The goal is to incentivize the operation of this as a shared lab, and should it be used for and rented out for any purpose other than a shared lab that would trigger the repayment of public resources. I think I have that.
I appreciate the additional flexibility that you are seeking to provide, and to be more focused on what is essential versus more perhaps prescriptive. I think it's very important that that the DMC, DA, Mayo, and Mortensen are incented to stay lockstep on this and to recognize their shared interests. So I think that's a good improvement in the intention and the direction of the documents that support this effort. So are there any further comments or questions?
Maybe if I just can, want to talk briefly about what we think the current schedule looks like, assuming everything continues to progress as it is. So we're at a board meeting today. This development agreement should be in front of the City Council on October 6th. We look to get all of the various agreements signed following that October 6th meeting. We are focused on a mid-October welcome reception, for lack of a better term, for biolabs in Rochester. We have a series of events throughout the balance of this year where we will be making the world aware of this asset and what is coming. So we've got one of those that we're going to be participating with the governor in Europe. We've got one in San Francisco in January. Mortensen looks to start construction in the fall of 2026 and has given us every assurance that they will look to get this open by third quarter of, we'll start construction fall of 25. Mortensen looks to get this open by the fall of 26. We've talked a lot about workforce development, and I'm nothing if not impatient, so I wanted to just sort of put on the table some future business development related infrastructure assets we're thinking of. This is the current blueprint for the third floor. The space in white is the biolab space, so a variety of private and shared labs. private and shared office spaces, conference rooms, equipment. But what you notice is in yellow there's about 9,000 square feet of vacant space that will be functionally right across the hall from the biolabs operation. And it is our intent to start to work on ideas around a workforce development asset that could be built in that space that really provides the most direct connection to companies spinning out of Biolabs Rochester around where their future workforce is going to come from. We want to make sure we have good answers to that question so that when these companies start to have success and come out, the path of least resistance is for them to stay and grow in Rochester. And I think this type of asset is essential for that. So wanted to just put that on the table as something we're thinking about and plan to pursue going forward.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments by members? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Tammy, would you call the roll?
Baker,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
Moving next to the discussion of the Historic District Infrastructure Project request.
Yep, thank you. Brooke, please go ahead.
All right.
Can I just, before you start, Brooke, I just want to note that staff has done work on this program, and we're prepared to come to the board meeting today to discuss their findings about the program. Just given the substance that was already on the agenda, I asked that we postpone that to our December meeting, but that will be coming forward then in December. So maybe you were going to say the very same thing.
Yes,
but
exactly what I was going to say to start us off, and just thank you to those of you on the DMCC board, city council, and the EDA board who have already met with me to share some additional feedback around the historic district as we move forward and make those recommendations. So for today, we have two fairly straightforward requests coming to the board for consideration. You have the resolution in your packet. The first is 317 Broadway. This is known as the Bach Music or Old Art Heads. Art Heads just moved to the next door building, which is the other request, immediately adjacent to Cafe Steam on Broadway. This request is for $14,000 of the DMC infrastructure investment funding by JLB Properties. It's managed by Realty Growth, and it's for new HVAC units in their building to enable improvements and future use. The second request is 319 Broadway, which is the new Art Head building. This request is put forth by Hal Henderson. It's for a variety of improvements to the property, tuck pointing, painting, wall rebuilding, window replacement, system upgrades as they prepared for additional use of that property. And that request is for $123,761. That brings our total request to the DMC budget to this date, including those, to $1.494 million, leaving about $3.5 million in our $5 million allotment.
questions, comments?
I think your numbers that you stated were opposite of what's on this chart, so just so that the records reflects that. You said the old art heads was 14,000 and the.
I think the name is maybe backwards, but the address is correct. 317 Broadway is for $123,000.
Okay.
And 319 is for 14.
And is that indeed the old Art Heads, that address?
The 317, yes, is the old art heads.
Yeah, you said it differently. I don't know if it happened.
All right, well,
Did I,
there we go.
excuse
We're
me
gonna
if
go
I
with
said
what we see.
it backwards, but yeah, the numbers are correct.
All right, any further comments, questions? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Tammy, will you call the roll?
Absolutely. Baker,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Norton,
Aye.
Schubring,
Aye.
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Wheelock.
Aye. Motion carries as approved. Thank you so much. And let's move, our final discussion item is the proposed revision of the criteria for expending the BRT contingency budget. So just as a reminder, the board provided city staff with a temporary set of criteria at our July meeting, and that's what we're revisiting today.
Thank you. You set the stage just right. Cindy, go ahead.
Great, thank you. So our official request is your approval of an amendment to the contingency guidelines for Link BRT. Just a reminder of the project, you've seen this before, 2.8-mile route with 7 locations, 12 stations. I will just note, we'll get this slide corrected, anticipated opening ridership day is 2027, not 2026. What this project means to the Rochester community in terms of quality of life, mode shift, greenhouse gas reduction goals, is the single largest transportation project in the city of Rochester, and it will have a powerful impact. The current project estimate is just under $174 million with a budget contingency required by FTA of $22.7 million. 4 of the 5 bid packages are out. 1 remains. That's the West Transit Village bathrooms, which will be let in 2026. Bus procurement is underway. We have 1 bus already in place, and so the project is moving along. As we continue to do construction of the project, we wanted to bring forward 3 different criteria for your consideration. Criteria 1 would be the use of contingency for emergency or unforeseen conditions. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Criteria 2 is for necessary project expenses. These are elements that might be deemed necessary for the project to continue with the not-to-exceed limit of $350,000 per occurrence. An example might be we have to modify a building front stoop and railing to make the grades and slopes work for sidewalk, would be an example of a necessary project not previously anticipated. Criteria 3 is to allow a $300,000 aggregate allocation to put forward towards a business forward strategy so we can mitigate impacts to businesses that along the corridor that might be impacted with the construction of the project. So those are the 3 criteria that we are recommending for contingency usage.
Any further discussion, questions, comments by board members? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I do have a question, Chair Wheelock.
Member Schubring?
Will we be apprised of any change orders or the amount of change orders that may then force you to dip into the contingency?
Yes, reporting requirements are a condition of our agreement with you related to the use of contingency, so we would be bringing those forward.
All right, Member Norton?
Yeah, I'll just say the 300,000 for business forward strategies that's aggregate, not each one.
Correct.
That made me a little more comfortable. You know, I know in the city, anything over $50,000 has to be approved, and so, you know, I hope we kind of keep that in mind a little bit, that 300,000 as an aggregate, not as an individual, made me feel better. So just hope we can get through this without having to use a lot of contingency, because things pop up.
All right. Tammy, would you call the roll?
Yes. Baker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Schubring?
Aye.
Tyne?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Wheelock?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Lastly, I'll just say there are a number of information items, as is always the case in the back of your board packet. One of the things that, one of the many things that I appreciated, though, is the summary of the infrastructure investment agreements being worked out between the city and Mayo Clinic in support of the Bold Forward Unbound. There is a lot of substance there, and I think it's a good reminder about the strong partnership between the city and Mayo to not only make the investments necessary to achieve the goals laid forward in this Bold Forward Unbound investment, but to maintain it as well over a period of time. So thank you for including that. I draw the members' attention to that specifically. I will add, if there are any questions or comments about any of those reports, I'd be happy to take those now. Seeing none, I will just point out that our next regular meeting is scheduled for December 10th at 9:30 here at the Civic Center. I will note it will be Member Campbell's last board meeting as a member of the Destination Medical Center board, and we look forward to paying tribute to him at that meeting. And with that, I will ask if there's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved, is there a second? Moved and seconded. Tammy, will you call the roll?
Baker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Schubring.
Aye.
Stein.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And Wheelock.
Aye. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, staff, for all of your work to prepare for this meeting today.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks.